Good morning. Welcome to Thursday, March the 12th, 2026. It's about 10:16 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and for the record, I am Yahweh Elohim, Yahuwah, Joshua, and we are going to go through a couple of topicals, a little bit of updates, and I got to get busy on kind of fleshing out this whole church inspection. So that's I think going to be my first big step when it comes to kind of tying this whole thing together. It's multi-fronted, of course, but we have the evil and wicked spirits on the run. We have participation with countries that before this were pretty much counted out, but now they're coming to their senses. They're coming to reason, and people are understanding that they actually do not hate other humans based on color, based on even religion necessarily, but it's good people dislike bad people. Bad people dislike good people. People that obey the law naturally dislike those who break the law. And vice versa. Those who break the law offend those who obey the law. And this is truly where people want to talk about good versus evil. It's obedience to goodness, meaning you live a righteous, law-abiding, upright life the best you can. You're on the side of good. If you break the law, if you live a life of sin, then you're on the hell side. And then knowing what tools in the toolbox, you have to help that process. So in the inspections, why churches are so important is because they are the ones that are responsible for the communities to learn righteousness and goodness, and that the churches are supposed to be the nucleus of the human experience, and they truly should be. They should be the most important things that any human needs. They need nourishment by hearing the word. They need to learn about biblical principles. They need to understand who their God is in or outside of the earth domain. They need to learn how their impact being a godly, righteous person is. Being that person is what spreads that to the darker parts of the world. And you need to, as they say, let your little light shine. That's being a model citizen and saying, guys, let's turn it let's, as the father, I'm going to turn that car around unless everybody starts behaving, And in hopes, that those kids do straighten up, They start sobering up. They start growing up, That's what humanity is doing, whether it likes it or not, whether it even knows it or not. That's what's happening. Humanity is growing up. What once used to be a fact of life, given time and correction, then fades into the footnotes of history, Black Death, the Black Plague in the Middle Ages, was a massive problem. Guess what? It came from something so small. Humans were so busy looking for these massive reasons, even spiritual reasons, when in reality it was unsanitary conditions in London, in England. And it was brought on by, I'm saying, the fleas from the rats. That was an issue, And luckily, that problem has ceased to exist anymore, and hopefully that will continue. It should. It doesn't have my, I don't like, anytime there's disease or pestilence at play, and I definitely want all those a part of the new kingdom, to be protected from all those things. But to give you the analogy, back in the Middle Ages, that was a big, big problem, right? Well, they solved that problem by sanitization, right? By aqueducts and cleanliness and getting rid of rodents, getting rid of rodent feces. Like it's a layered structure. And the same thing with humanity. What once, back in the Cold War era, Russia used to terrify the entire world. Even look at your media movies, how much they played up the Russian threat. And now the world is seeing clearly that, well, it's not that Russia is a lapdog, but it's not the 800-pound gorilla in the room that everybody thought it was either. You see? And it's not even somewhere in the middle. Like, it's a little bit more above a lapdog, right? It's like a loud chihuahua. Like it can get your ankles. It can, but I'm saying the Russia thing is more or less proving that they're more of just, they're a self-righteous, and they don't have a reason to be righteous, their own definitions of righteous, but there's some like self-righteous oligarchy, right? Their centrifuges based on money and power, and their ways, their all that stuff, right? That's all skewed. They're trying to go back to the glory days of KGB, and that's just not what the new world is going to be. It's not what it is. It's not what, like, it is not going to be a form of currency or leverage in the future. So why do it, right? And that's kind of how right now, right? Everybody for the last almost 50 years, right, has avoided the Iran situation. They've tried to appease the Iran situation. Everybody has tried to tiptoe around the Iranian problem, and all the while it just got bigger and bigger and more meaner. And then to a point, then people said, oh, well, now it's too big to be dealt with, right? So now we just have to, like, be reactive when it comes to Iran. Like, they're just this super bad child that instead of getting his butt whooped and thrown out of the house for good, right, people of Earth are, we're still tolerating the nonsense. I am very, very happy that it is being dealt with, and it needs to be continuously dealt with until it is gone, right? Just like the Black Plague, it did not cure overnight. It took prudence, patience, time, and thoroughness, which is what the military needs to continue doing when it comes to jihadism. Jihadists in any part of the world are a problem. Cartels in any part of the world are a problem. Foreign countries that act as if they are criminal crime organizations are a problem. The free world is the future. A future that people do not hate each other, period, because they recognize that everyone has been gifted life, meaning they've been gifted a pathway by Almighty God, the creator of life, and that we may not be able to help everybody in or on our path because sometimes we need the help, but then sometimes you're in the ability to help. But we should never harm anyone for any reason, right? So even if we have disagreements, we can disagree, we can even get hot and fussy, but there's no need to ever lead to violence. The only time violence truly exists, right, is when there's like evil in the world. And when you can, remove evil from the world, what remains are just genuinely non-demonic humans, and a non-demonic human is a natural law abider. They're a naturally righteous person. And it's in spectrums, right? You have, the super righteous, and obviously that's amazing. Then there are those that, they're not commandment breakers, right? But they're not necessarily jumping for joy being a rule follower. But no matter what, right, even the lowest spectrum of righteousness, no matter what, they follow the rules and the laws, is what I'm saying. Because that's what separates, right, man from the animal kingdom, right? Is animals need either a biological stop or preventative measure taken by the creator, myself, but from the heavens side of the world, of course. So I'm saying, right, from the creation's viewpoint, all animals have natural barriers to keep them in and around a certain location. There are certain vegetation that's fit for types of animals. There are certain, conditions on Earth that are more geared towards different animals. You guys should know this. I think that's great too, that humanity has cataloged I wouldn't say every. You guys are you're like 7/10 of the way of cataloging all the creational, everything from insects to animals to mammals to fish. But saying, so animals, right, they need natural barriers to essentially keep them, right, or biological barriers. Well, if the water, right, keeps the whale in the ocean and the air is what keeps the bird in the sky, they're two complete different worlds, right? But they're both obedient to the reality in which they exist. Human beings need to find that same harmony, right? You exist in a creation with godlike attributes, to think, to plan, to have purpose, to have joy, desire, to have obviously a physical body that represents your faculties, that represents your ability to be a creation faculty member, right? You are all little stewards of the creation. Take care of it. You take care of my animals, but you also take care of each other. And you want to be encouraging good behaviors that do not promote violence, do not promote sex. It does not promote broken homes. It does not go around slapping labels of approval on every human ailment or sickness just for the cause of commonality or inclusion. That is dangerous, guys, right? Because these ideals, right, by having the bad music, the bad media, the bad TVs, the bad literature, saying when they're making the bad people in these films or movies somehow good, right? Or they're putting the spin on that somehow breaking commandments is cool or acceptable or just what humans do, and then you get the Jesus blood eraser. That is not how this works. That is not how this works, right? That'd be like going to work for a company who prides itself on, having a very low turnover rate and a, positive, thriving culture, and then, they really don't ever fire anyone, but they don't need to either, because everyone that works there is always on their point. They're such a crucial member of the company. So I, as Elohim, feel the same way, that every human is a member of the CEO is a member of the company, right? The company of Yahweh. And then everyone's just expected to do the right thing, do good things, and you guys are going to prosper. Life is going to flourish. Human, existence could be so beautiful. But you guys are always in your own way. And I lost my train of thought. But I'm saying, what makes humans different from the animal kingdom is having that ability, that thought process, having a mind, right? And then decision making, being able to make choices, being able to help something else, right? You have the ability to learn about animals, to then take care of the animal, and then have a sense of duty, responsibility, right? So if everyone is doing that in one way or another, then they're not robbing people for money because they got a purpose, right? They're not out having premarital sex because they're not going after the flesh, right? They're using their high mind and they're selecting a husband or a wife, right? Once, getting married once, and then dedicating themselves to that significant other for their entire life, right? And hopefully that continues upstairs. So I'm saying, like, there are periods in a human existence, like I just was talking about the Black Plague, right? Like, that was commonplace. Then it was commonplace of, like, polio or smallpox. Like, all these things at one point or another plagued humankind, and it almost seemed unpassable. Well, guess what? With sanitation, with efforts, with vaccines, now it's not even a problem, right? People live their entire lives virtually not thinking about these things because they don't have to. They don't have to. Doesn't mean that it didn't exist at one point and it was a huge problem. What I mean is, once we get rid of evil in the world, the level of normalcy will return once humans can get off of this cyborg like obsession. It's gonna break the human race if you continue with it. You're oversaturating ads, you're oversaturating the human brain. You are literally like ionizing your entire molecular being, right? It's not healthy for humans to be on cell phones like you are. It's not healthy having that much 5G like stuff going through the air. Honestly, it can mess with spiritual things. I'm saying, like a little bit's okay, right? But human interaction, right? Being good people to each other, being out in the community, right? There was nothing wrong with having the old cable television and a home phone. And then you had a permanent desktop computer, like having a computer in your pocket, right? Having all this access. It is not healthy. Like, there are some things that they should have processes. There should be steps. There should be things, right, that you do that make you appreciate the luxury you have more. But to that point, in the future, given some time, right, and thoroughly cleaning the evil problem from the earth, when it's gone, it's gone. And then just like polio and all that other stuff, right, that was once a problem, and then it's gone, and then it's not looked at really, unless you're talking about history or one-offs, right, rare occurrences. That's how the new earth is going to be. You're not going to hear about murders on TV. The thought of war will be, gosh, so far away. Upheaval in general will be gone. News will actually not even really be a big thing in the future, because unless it's local news, you know, it's just very basic and static. You know, this is what politics is doing. This is, you know, just very basic things, but not sensational, not scary. It'll just kind of fade into the background, right? Like Blockbuster faded into rental movie business. That'll be like the hype news right now, right? The last 20 years has been hype news. Well, that'll calm down and it'll fall by the wayside. People will get used to family time again. You know, good, wholesome family sitcoms that used to be on. And then they stopped and gave way to the reality TV, and then crappy talk shows, and then crappy, nasty daytime soaps, and the culture shifted. Well, the culture is going to shift back, and it's going to shift into the highest gear of righteousness man has ever known, and it will not slip this time. Because once we are at an acceptable level and the evil is gone, the spirit from heaven is not only freely given, but it is going to be unavoidable for all those that remain. It will be like breathing air. If you're a person who's breathing air, you're going to have that higher mind, grown or given. But everybody will. Everybody will. And then in X time, people won't even talk about war anymore. They won't talk about murder. They will just know these times, just like they knew the times in the Black Plague. Like, they'll know these times as, hey, this was the last big house clearing in the Third Testament, right? The big house clearing to make way for eternal righteousness and human prosperity and achievement, and pushing the limits of what is not only possible but probable. All right, I think the wife is off the meeting. I will rendezvous with her. And we're back. Okay, so we were talking about kind of what to expect here in the future. And had a couple things to do as well. Okay. So as we were saying, the entire situation with jihadism, cartels, just essentially just wicked and evil people, deeds, like all that stuff is going to cease to exist. And it falls on the shoulders of humanity, because especially for influencers, people that do move, besides me as Elohim, I mean, I know I do move a portion of the population in the right direction, but then think about the other 40% or even 60%, depending on what side you look at it. But they're being led by music, by media, by influencers, right? And there's not necessarily something bad with that, because it's just a part of the human experience. There are going to be people that, that people are more naturally drawn to. That's okay. But let's make sure that the content and the quality of what those people are doing or saying or teaching is going to be beneficial for the human experience and the creation. There is something drastically wrong, and I don't have any social media. My children do not have any, and my wife does not have any. But my wife has what's expected of her at her work, which is like a professional networking site, like LinkedIn or something like that. But the point I'm making is, you have like these TikTok and these Instagram and these people that are doing like, challenges for kids that are dangerous. That's stupid. Like, where in the Bible or where in anything does it ever say that humanity is supposed to go on a decline in intelligence? You guys are supposed to be on an incline. But guess what? After a few generations of lazy parenting who are not instilling, imagine a few generations ago, right? The kids from the 70s and 80s, which is what our song is today, is back to 1981, Vaporwave. So it's like a no copyright type of deal. But I'm saying, this was back when, right, mom and dad, like, think of your classic 50s household, right? And then please exclude like the social issues of the era, but just to paint the picture, right? Let's say dad could have, a job, one car family. He makes enough money. Mom stays at home, takes care of the kids. Mom's job is to raise the kids, right? To instill discipline, righteousness, make sure they're on their schoolwork, make sure they're going to the doctor, that they're, being raised, not just let loose like wild little humans. Well, when that gave way, then mom and dad both started working. Then the kids essentially started, growing offshoots, like they were off the vine type of thing. And so the schooling, right? Because if you ask a kid, that's what I mean, right? So if you ask a kid as an adult, do you like school? Usually a little gripe. Cameron's amazing at school, but even he still is a complainer about it. If it was up to him, he would just say, no, I'm good. I don't need school. Well, when kids are left to do like their own thing without parent supervision or a righteous adult or righteous adults, as they should be, raising up children to be good, honest, righteous adults, right? By the time they're 18 or 19, they should be so steadfast in what they know is right, what they know is wrong. They don't lie, they don't steal, they don't cheat, they don't, lust after the flesh, just good, wholesome people. Hard-working, wholesome people with purpose. Well, getting out of that, unfortunately, for several generations, right? Then all through the 70s, right? You have the legendary party stories. Then the 80s, the legendary party stories. Then mixing into the culture of LGBTQ. And really, this all has stemmed from several generations of uber lazy parents, or parents that were so obsessed with making money that they went and made all that money, and then they totally forgot that they just made more money than their character should have allowed them to get. Right? Because in the new earth, people that are going to have any sums of money, they better have it righteously, lawfully, and honestly, and it should be working for a purpose. Because again, not in any way that socialism is ever going to be a thing, because we don't want to take the people that have been the most successful and then penalize them to prop up the side of the camel's back kind of thing. You know what I mean? We don't want to take from one. We don't want to Robin Hood this thing. So at the end of the day, it's people's behaviors. It's companies can't. I'm saying if everybody that's left that remains, right, all the wicked, evil people are gone. People that are commandment breakers are gone. People that can't walk in a righteous life in any way, right, or who don't even want help to do it. Like I'm saying, lost cases, the jihadists, right, the cartels, they are making lives of crime as their pathway. That's not happening. With the problems being removed, righteousness will flow back into households. Media that is producing raunchy or leftist or idealizations of jihad or murder or sick twistedness, like propping up LGBTQ guys, all that is demented. It is not of the true goodness that is creation inspired. It is not anything that is going to be light, so it is going to be gone or done away with. So, like as they would say, like there are going to be winners and losers. All the businesses that get into righteousness, all the businesses that truly can, unweirdly too, that's what I think is funny. Businesses, like for example, I think this is funny, right? I go to Hobby Lobby, Asher and I, and there are some people that work there that know us for who we are, and they think it's pretty cool. Like, they think it's cool. They're like, I mean... I won't go into those things, but it was just funny. But I'm saying, but on a corporate level, for example, if Hobby Lobby was like, gosh, being a Christian business, we have the living God, like, who comes to our store, and we sell like so much merchandise that is all about God. And it's like, you would think from a corporate business, like at minimum, how businesses have like the Better Business Bureau, right, or top rated or accredited or like things like that. So that's kind of how I feel like me as the Lord, right, could offer the same thing to companies that want the seal of righteousness, right, or a place of business that has been approved by me, Elohim. And I was just making the case point that, Hobby Lobby should have been like one of the first companies to, send me an email or call me and say, hey, like, could we start advertising like God approves of Hobby Lobby? Like, whatever. I'm saying, like, you're welcome to use me introduced into marketing, and I have no problem, doing something like that. But obviously, you have to be a real righteous business first off, so no one could ever try to get sneaky and say like, hey, we'll give you like, $100,000 to, say we're a good business, but we're really not. I'd tell you to keep your $100,000 and fix your business. That's what I would tell you. But on the other end, right? Like if Hobby Lobby is like, hey, like you shop our store, Like, you've left us positive reviews. Obviously, we sell a bunch of, merchandise related to the Bible, which I am an actual character of. So, it's just, I'm saying, you would think, right? Like, if you're a store and you sell a bunch of Abraham Lincoln stuff, and then you have the opportunity for Abraham Lincoln to actually endorse your memorabilia store, like, you would want that mark. So it's also what's tying into my inspection of churches, because just like it's new today, 50 years from now it won't be new anymore. It'll be commonplace. And churches will want the seal of me, the seal of the living God. And that way, congregants will know, okay, this is an approved church by the God in which we are praying and honoring and worshiping His Spirit. Yahweh Elohim, Yahuwah, the creator of the universe. The universe, folks. The universe. That's kind of a big deal. But by not only having the endorsing factor, right, for righteous businesses that don't have any scandals, right? They don't have any of these frauds or forgeries, like, you know what I'm saying? Hobby Lobby is a good example of a good company. I mean, I think we need to back down our Jesus stuff a little bit here. Let's make way for Yahweh, right? Maybe if you don't want to go with the vowel points, you can just put YHWH, but I'm saying I would appreciate that. Because what I don't like, guys, is I don't like so much emphasis on the flesh, I guess, to be honest. So it is where, like, even in videos, like, I want you to know who is actually talking to you. It is Yahweh Elohim Yahuwah, as the God of heaven and earth, the creator, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, of Jacob. Like, if we were talking about software, and every human, even including my body, is just a laptop type of thing, right? My software is uploaded with Yahweh. That's it. Every other laptop is uploaded with Judy or Phyllis or, whatever. All right, you guys are all like uploaded with your own software to your computer. My software is the creator, is Yahweh Elohim. This flesh is my hardware. Together we are one. Without Yahweh, there is no me. And without me, there is no Yahweh presence on the earth. But again, I do not want that attention focused on my flesh. That's the whole kind of a point, is no, that's my spirit. No, the Holy Spirit is who I am. I am the incarnate God. That is my name. My legal name is Joshua, right? Definitively, you could say it is Jesus, but it's been used for every wrong reason nowadays. So it really does leave me personally feeling a lot less like enthusiastic about it, right? Because it has almost become a mockery, and I can see why, because that's my point, right? Is as the living God, like, these untruths have led to a mockery of my religion. Like, if I don't get wrathful, I just get sad. Like, it's kind of crappy. So point is, I'm physically here on earth, but who you're praying, who you're honoring, who you're worshiping is the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and Jacob. That is Yahweh Elohim, Yahuwah. I am Yahuwah. I am Yahweh in the flesh. Boom. So I'm saying, like, I don't get the confusion. But I don't want people, like, don't bow down to me. Don't get on your knees. Don't ask me weird questions. Don't ask me what you prayed for this morning. Like, because here's the truth. When I go upstairs, I've got 100 million things I got to do. And 99% of the time, I don't even know where I would even find your prayer. Like, it's just like, is it possible? Yes, it is. But how much is something like that going to advance, like, the overall things? You see what I mean? It's like someone saying, can you go and find that car registration from 1973? You know, it's in a filing cabinet somewhere. But that has no ramifications for anything that I'm doing, you're doing, or anyone else is doing right now. Right? If it's a valid prayer and the person, there are protocols set up. right? So if that person is basically like, boom, 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 there's an angel there to assist them because they didn't have sex until they were married. They have an angel to assist them, right? If I need to check on the family, I can read the angel report. But guess what? Many families are not like that now. So guess what? I don't have any angels in there. That means I'm left to go direct feeding, which sends my spirit out. But again, it takes those people to get in alignment with me to then receive it. Then when they receive it, they have that peace. They go, oh, what once felt so hard to comprehend now just feels like that makes total sense. And now I can't see it any other way. That's what people usually, when they've aligned themselves with me and they just see, right? Boom. They go, I totally get it. I totally get it. They're like, I had like a parable actually. Someone told me back in a parable. They're like, okay, so God drove like a Mazda, like a Ford, and then like, I don't know, a Cadillac. But it was the same God that drove all three of those cars. Now you're getting it. Now you're getting it. So stop saying that you're in love with the car, right? Because that car ain't doing anything for you. I can help you carry the groceries, but it's like people are expecting like different things when it's like in reality, like that is my spirit, but my spirit is a very real thing and it inhabits obviously in heaven. But I don't need people getting hung up on the lust, on the fleshly desire, right? And that's for a purpose. Because if you are trying to love and adore, praise and worship or honor in any type of way, but you're doing it under false pretenses, then it does nothing for you or me. But it just seems a very superficial faith, and then it really is offensive. And then it's like, it's like, if I was to use a parable, like let's say, we're on the playground, and then there's these kids on the playground, as a father, I'm just looking, I see the kids playing there, one of my adopted kids, is sitting there telling the other kids, he's like, yeah, my dad's got a flying RV, and the other kids are like, oh yeah, oh man, oh cool, right? Kids are all around that other kid, right? And then I, as the father, come over and they're like, hey, we heard you had a flying RV. I'm like, no, I didn't. And then my kid's like, no, Dad, you did. And I'm like, no, I didn't. I never had a flying RV, actually. And then my kid's still like, no, he does, right? But the thing is, it's like the kid's not being honest, right? Or he's over embellishing something. What the kid doesn't realize, it's like you're setting an expectation for these other kids over here of something that I can't do or don't have. You see, that's what the New Testament has done to me, is it has embellished things and taught it as literal accuracy, which has now thus created falsity that people either have to realize and either read with the realization that it's been embellished, and I will accept it as it's been embellished, but thus do not expect me to affirm any truths in there, because we can't use the same measuring stick. You see what I mean? We can use literal accuracy for the Old Testament, rough in part, not even so much details there. But in the New Testament, you definitely got to wear kind of story mode glasses. You see what I mean? And it's kind of irritating that people have memorized like specific Bible verses from the New Testament that are not actually, were never said, right? As Yahweh, as the God side of, like truly, I guess you could say it that way, right? Yehoshua, the first Messiah, if you will, or the first God-man, the Melchizedek. However, and again, I know, because I say these things, and then some people, they take them one way, and then they go run with it, and the other ones take it another way and run with it, and then we go and completely, everyone starts creating new whatever. It's all drive me nuts. But So the spirit, my spirit, descending on, right, Hosea, then the name change, and then Yeshua, right, the Aramaic name of Yehoshua. So you know what I mean? These little minor changes have broken theology all to hell, but either way, I guess if you want to just simplify it without going into the minutia, it is when the Spirit of Yahweh inhabits and shares the flesh of a man. Who's she talking to? Anyway, and so, like, if you want to look at, like, time 1, right, was almost like possession. Time 2 was like shared vehicle. And then time 3 is like just me physically here. But the other half of me, like, is the same me, but it's like upstairs. And when I go up there, I'm just one person. But when I'm down here, I'm just one person. But there's still some of me that remains. It's complicated, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I feel like this probably could be debated indefinitely or eternally. I don't know. Because it's like an inversion. Like, as soon as you get too close to that, like, plane horizon and then you go above it, it's like, if you ever seen the Pirates of the Caribbean doing this from memory here, but, like, they're on the Davy Jones, or they're on the Flying Dutchman, and they're trying to go, like, to Davy Jones' locker, right? So they wait for the green, which is interesting because I know a lot of my Jewish and Hebrew roots, you guys look for that green thing. But I don't know why you do that. But anyway. So anyway, they go, like, to the green horizon, the flash, then the boat flips over, right? Well, that's kind of how, like, the heavenly plane is, right? It's like I could be right here, and I mean, obviously, very frequently, especially in the evening, once I'm done with, like, the house, kids are tucked in, everyone's had baths, the kitchen's all closed down, like, everything's nice and tight, and everyone's asleep. Usually just settle in. Doesn't really have to be anywhere, but I just settle in where I'm not going to be disturbed for a good amount of time. And then I go up. And then it's like going up, and then it's like a weird feeling, almost like it's like being spun really, really fast, like almost nauseating. And then on the other side, it's like, because coming into it, there's so many, like, thoughts, like, okay, try to remember this, try to remember this, try to remember this. And then as soon as you cross that plane, it's like the reverse of a dream. If you've ever woken up from a dream and you're like, oh, I'm trying to remember, forgetting, as I'm trying to explain it, I'm forgetting, and now, like, you remember a tree. You're like, well, it was definitely a lot more than a damn tree. You see what I mean? That's the effect that happens when I cross that point of horizon. So when I go up, and I'm even sitting there, and I'm like, okay, like, remember, blah, 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 blah. As soon as it, it's like, for the first second, it's like, okay, oh, that's a little nauseating. And then it was like, oh yeah, I was remembering I'm like, whoa. I'm like, dang it. And then it's like, all of those things that were down here, I can't even remember anymore upstairs. Because it's like, upstairs, my head is full of completely different thoughts, opinions, like all these different things. It's like going from, like, you know, water to the dry land, right? Like, it's like going from a fish to a bird. Like, it is two different experiences, right? It's just crazy. So anyway, well, actually, yeah, it's like going from a fish to a bird and then to, like, a person, I guess. But so that's just what happens. And then it's like, as soon as in heaven, like, the feeling is, oh my gosh, I need to stop stressing out. Like I gotta stop taking things so seriously, like when I'm down there. And then like I just kind of jump into my purposes, and then I know I'm like, okay, well I gotta get this done, that done, and this done. I gotta make sure I'm like back in a good amount of time, because then I physically need to sleep. So I'm really trying to do all this like, and it's at a maddening pace. So yeah. So anyway, so it's like forgetting those things, crossing that barrier, but then like coming back down, going into it, it's like, okay, try to remember we're doing this, that, and the other. And it's like, okay, well, I'm probably not going to remember, because it's kind of like the crossover of like going from an Apple platform or an iPad or iPhone platform to like an Android, right? Like, it's like you can interface like kind of between them, but if you were transferring files, you can't really transfer files one to the other, at least I think that's how it works. I don't know. We are Android people. I don't do the little bit in Apple technology. Not that I mean there's anything necessarily nefarious, but it's just not a good look for the Kingdom members, honestly, having the bit in Apple. Like, we see where that got everybody. So just a heads up. But yeah, and that's the thing. There will be there's always like blocks of info missing going on either side. And that's the thing, right? I mean, to the best of my ability and to the best of what my physical incarnation can handle, like, I try to be as transparent as I can, because like from the flesh side of things, like it is pretty spectacular. Like, it is pretty amazing, like, in just general, and just to know that like just as real as the law of gravity is, right? It's amazing, and it's almost magical when you don't know what it is. But then when you understand that the gravity exists because of the rotation of the Earth, in one side it helps your understanding further, because now you have the knowledge of how gravity exists, but now it just opens up another mystery of, well, why is the Earth rotating, and why doesn't it ever slow down? Because as humans, we can't replicate any technology that doesn't have friction, right? So how does the Earth move at a perfect rotation without ever slowing down? And not just for a couple of thousand years, but for billions of years. You see what I mean? These are just more mysteries. So even in the divine like category, I'm on like a side mission. Like, I'm trying to figure out how I can better retain like a to-do list from down here and get it up there, versus going from down here to up there, and then I usually have like counsel notes. So I'm usually getting into like counsel situations, and it's more like, okay, all right, this is everything that I'm looking at, going through. Occasionally I'll see some names. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I know I'm getting frustrated with this person. I can't remember at the moment why. And I don't have time to go and like review that person. But it's like, almost like putting stuff in like my spiritual bag. I'm like, yeah, I remember that person's irritating me. I know when I go back down, I know I'm going to be pissed off at that one. And I'm looking through things, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'm like, yeah, let's do that. Just different things. But it's like, that is like the most pertinent topics that are dealt with, and that's how it is, right? And so I'm trying to figure out how I can but it's hard, and that's another thing, right? Some of these barriers are also intended, I guess, to maintain a level of faith, right? Because if humans essentially are given like knowledge of all things, right? Well, number one, that also reduces your faith, right? So you do have to have some levels of faith, but we don't need to go so far as embellishing right? Because that's what I mean, is I feel like the Roman Catholic Church started out trying to do me a solid, and then at the end of the day, they did nothing but kill the entire second half of the Bible. Like, damn it, man. And that's the thing, because it's, as I've been saying, right? Being the almighty, all-knowing, seeing God in the flesh, right, is a big deal in itself. And there are things that come with it that are unique, that are obviously supernatural. But then there are things that there are laws of physics and laws of creation and universal truths that shall not be broken. Because it is what it is. So, alright, I'm going to take a 5. I don't know if I have any good topicals, but I'll check. Let's take a little 5 here. Okay, well, I'll do a few words, I guess, on the war, since how that's obviously a pretty big topic. I am not in the slightest worried about oil. We've got plenty of reserves. In fact, we could be totally cut off from the overseas markets indefinitely, and we would actually have a lower cost of fuel. The only intermediate, and I'm not even going to use the word concern because it's not a concern, is, well, our ability to refine gas for what's needed on the consumer level. We have a lot of refineries that, because we're not using our domestic gas and oil, mainly it's for reserves, or even we sell off a lot of the top of it just for profit, because we can technically buy it cheaper, because there's countries out there that are willing to pay their people crap. And, well, anyway, forgetting the economical side of things. Well, not forgetting the economical side of things, but just not that side of it. We would just have to switch our refineries over. So if we had to switch off refineries that are making rubber, or not rubber, my gosh, but if they're making like solvents, there's a lot of things you can do with gas and oil. And again, a lot of our domestic is either being sold off, held in reserves, or it's being made for other products. We would just have to move some things around. That's all I'm saying. And President Trump, for good, bad, or indifferent, he's a businessman, and the bottom line for the American financial health is obviously a top priority for myself as Elohim, but also President Trump as the current manager of the United States. But remember, I manage him. That's a job in itself. But point I'm making is, I'm not worried about the finance personally. I think that Americans need to calm down, because you guys are silly. You do not need to let anything shake you from promises from me, your God. And for what it's worth, President Trump, for good, bad, or indifferent, he's got issues on a personal level. But when it comes to the best interests of the American people, he does have that in heart, truly. And when he does, say, the war is not going to be a forever war, that's for sure. I mean, I have made sure that he knows that, the administration knows that, the Democrats should know that. And truly, what would be good for the Democrats right now is to simmer down, fund DHS, especially right now, because we are in a peak problem area with, again, radicalization. I'm doing everything in my power to try to keep bad actors from acting badly, but it's a full-time job as Elohim, plus I have earthly duties to tend to. Like, obviously I have a family to take care of, but that doesn't mean that I'm not closely monitoring everything all the time from heaven or earth. But economically speaking, Americans, simmer down. Don't go and mess with your 401ks. Don't go and mess around with your portfolios. Stop calling the Franklin Templeton, the Goldman Sachs. Just, y'all need to calm down, because you are the ones controlling the market right now. If you guys calm down, the rest of the world's going to calm down. Okay? This is the same type of problem that, like, when we're talking about COVID days. COVID wasn't even a sickness that caused diarrhea, right? But because of a few people panicked, it set off a sellout for toilet paper. Guys, people had toilet paper for 2 years plus after the pandemic because they overbought, right? If everybody would have bought normal, just remained normal, we would have had more normal outcomes. It's when people are acting abnormal that we have abnormal outcomes. Humans, as smart as you are, some of the most basic things evade you, and then you get very cranky about the problems that you have. So hopefully, as your Elohim teaching you daily, hopefully daily, I've been really busy, so I'm sorry about that. It's not because I'm dragging my feet, it's just because I have been super busy with a lot of good things, though. Great things coming down the pipe. Truly, it's a fun ride. It can be stressful at times, but it's a fun ride. And I hope every person on earth can get to a point where they can feel the same way. That, has your life been interesting, right? And at the minimum, right? Have I, in any way, right, stirred up that human spirit in you? Have I given you that not only good reasons to be good, to do good to the creation, right? But hopefully I've given some fact to your faith. So when I say things like simmer down and don't go sell off all your oil stock, right? Hold the line. Show the world how resilient America really is. Because guys, we could have done this little war with one hand behind our back. Like, this is again proving to the world that, guys, evil is not prospering like the world thinks. It's not. There are good people that are remaining here in this earth plane, and they want to get rid of evil as badly as I do. Those are the kind of people that know right from wrong. They know that they're male or female. They know that having good core family values, having a wholesome attitude, respecting each other, honoring your mother, your father, being just an all-around model citizen. And if you're a part of the, if you're a part of anything, you should always be at the center, a good person. And never let your morals or your ethics ever fall by the wayside because of gain or fear of persecution. Like, no. We should be avoiding bad behaviors all around, right? But if we do find ourselves in a predicament, then know, right? My spirit is freely given to any and all those who ask. You just got to put that sin on the table and say, okay, I'm sacrificing that bad boy. I'm done with it, right? I'm going to tell the truth no matter what, so help me, Elohim, right? That's the point. That's salvation, right? This is my sin. God, I'm giving it to you, Heavenly Father. I'm giving you that sin. I need you to help walk with me. Hold my hand. Walk me through this next battle. Walk me through whatever I have next. That's it. And all will and is good with those people. So, yeah. The war, not worried about. I'm quite happy with the job we're doing. It has been a massive effort, a Herculean effort, and I do believe that it has more than reminded the world that the United States does not stand for tyranny. It does not stand for iniquity. It does not stand for unrighteousness, murderistic ideals. It doesn't stand for those things. And when the call for help by the Iranian people was made, that is when we activate. That is when righteousness comes in and says, you're a people who are saying down with the dictator and up with the republic. Well, we love hearing that because we want to bring Iran online. What a beautiful nation. What a beautiful people. Like I said, my wife is married to an Iranian, and he's been a fantastic husband, fantastic stepfather to my cousins. He's been a good, I guess, kind of uncle, I guess, to me, and he's very smart. He's very successful. Him and my aunt own several businesses throughout the southern United States, and, he's doing a lot of good for people's lives by being able to give them jobs. So, trust me, I have a personal mission to see these things happen for the betterment of him and his family who lives over there. And he ain't the only one. There's many people, and the family I knew too, just over the last couple years that I met that were from Iraq even, and that's what I mean, guys. It's just good. There's good people everywhere. Guys, there's good people in Russia. There's good people in North Korea. There's good people in Iran. There's good people all over the place. The problem isn't if you're Gazan or Palestinian or Iranian or Japanese or Chinese or Russian or American. It doesn't matter. You're a human being first, and you have an obedience to the heavens to be a good person. That's the first thing. When you're just a good person, the rest is minutia, right? If you're a good people being threatened by a tyrannical regime, the good people deserve to be able to fight that regime. But the people should also be educated and adequate in knowledge about who they are for me, but also for their countrymen. There is no righteousness or piousness in LGBTQ anything. It's against universal law. It's against natural law, right? Rioting for the sake of illegals, that's no, right? You can't stem a cause from an illegal cause. It's a fugazi, right? The wrong of being in any country illegally is a wrong in itself, right? So 2 wrongs don't make a right. I'm saying they are in illegally, they need to be exited out. So again, most of the claims of the Democrats, that's what I mean, is you guys are fighting for causes that don't need to happen because it's the wrong thing to do. So many times, humans, you guys have left things up for opinions, and guys, opinions aren't truth. Opinions aren't truth. So, alright, we're at the hour. Hope you have a good day. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. If not, have a great weekend, but we might see you tomorrow.